Inside Dilbar, the super yacht that turned size into a flex. Picture this. You are standing on a pier, watching a 512-foot wall of steel and glass slide past you in almost total silence. It is so big, it makes a 200-foot normal super yacht look like a tender. Now, here is the twist. Long before you even talk about buying a yacht like this, there is one brutal number that quietly kills the dream for almost everyone on Earth. By the end of this video, we are going to put a real dollar figure on what just 1 year of running Dilbar actually costs. Dilbar is one of the most famous and extreme super yachts on the planet. Built by Lürssen in Germany and delivered in 2016, she stretches to about 156 meters, or around 512 feet. At roughly 15,917 gross tons, she is widely described as the largest motor yacht in the world by volume, which matters more than length when you are talking about interior space and pure presence on the water. This is luxury living detective, and today we are climbing on board a ship that is part private palace, part power statement, and part floating engineering experiment. We are going to break down what Dilbar is, how she is powered, what life on board really feels like, and why her yearly bills are the sort of thing that would make even a billionaire take a deep breath. A moving city disguised as a yacht. Dilbar is not just a big yacht, she is a moving city block. From bow to stern, she comes in at about 156 meters in length, with a beam of roughly 23 to 24 meters and a draft of just over 6 meters. At just under 16,000 gross tons, she has more internal space than many small cruise ships that carry hundreds of paying guests. Here, that space is reserved for a very small guest list and a near army of staff. Inside, Dilbar carries guests in double-digit suites and close to 100 crew when she is fully staffed. That is an entire luxury hotel's worth of service personnel, living and working on a single ship, whose only job is to keep a few people comfortable. Her hull is steel, her superstructure is aluminum, and the decks are wrapped in teak. From the water, Dilbar has a light ivory hull with subtle bronze accents and a stacked series of decks that climb into the sky. The design by Espen Oino is not trying to be a sci-fi spaceship. It is big, confident, and almost classical. The power plant hiding under the Teak. Now let's talk about what it actually takes to move something this big across an ocean. Dilbar runs on a diesel-electric propulsion system. Deep in the ship, multiple Wärtsilä generator engines feed enormous electric motors that turn twin propellers. Total power output sits in the ballpark of 50,000 horsepower, the kind of number you usually see on commercial vessels, not someone's vacation place. All that energy pushes Dilbar to a reported top speed of around 22 to 23 knots, or roughly 25 to 26 miles per hour on the water. Her comfortable cruising speed sits closer to 18 knots, and at an economical speed around 16 knots, she can run for roughly 6,000 nautical miles without stopping to refuel. To do that, she carries roughly 1 million liters of fuel on board. Yes, 1 million. Filling those tanks is not just an errand, it is a financial event. Depending on the fuel price, a single load can easily run into the high six-figure range just to top her off. That is the kind of number where you do not swing by for fuel. You plan for it. On top of propulsion, you have the hotel load that keeps the lifestyle running. Air conditioning for thousands of square feet of interior, lighting, kitchens, spa systems, elevators, entertainment tech, stabilization, and more. Dilbar is basically a private floating power grid wrapped in a designer exterior, quietly doing heavy industrial work while guests wander around in bare feet. Life inside 15,917 tons of luxury. Specs are fun, But this is luxury living detective, so what we really care about is how it feels to actually live on Dilbar. Step on board at the stern and you enter a world that feels more like a private resort than a boat. One of the signature features of Dilbar is her gigantic indoor swimming pool. It is around 25 meters long and holds about 180 cubic meters of water, making it one of the largest pools ever put on a yacht, surrounded by lounges, bars, and relaxation areas that make it easy to forget you are even at sea. Floor-to-ceiling glazing brings in natural light, and the design feels more like a five-star wellness retreat than a ship's gym. Climb up through the decks, and you find a sequence of salons, dining rooms, and private lounges. There are formal spaces for serious dinners and more relaxed areas for casual snacks and late-night conversations. The interior, designed by Andrew Winch, leans into rich materials and custom details rather than anything off the rack. Guest suites come with large windows and generous bathrooms with finishes that would look right at home in a top-tier suite in New York or Dubai. The owner's spaces are on another level again, with private terraces, separate lounges, and the sort of privacy that lets you forget the rest of the world entirely. Up above, Dilbar carries helipads so guests can arrive and leave without ever touching a dock. There are gyms, a spa, beauty areas, cinema-style entertainment rooms, and plenty of open deck for sunbathing and parties. Toy garages hold tenders and smaller boats for beach landings and water sports. When she is anchored off the coast, Dilbar becomes her own private island. What really makes Dilbar different? So what actually separates Dilbar from all the other billionaire toys out there? On paper, other yachts like Azam or Eclipse might beat her in pure length. But in terms of interior space, she sits at the top. That means more room for guest areas, crew spaces, technical zones, and the sort of amenities you simply cannot fit into smaller boats. You are talking about thousands of square meters of guest and owner space, a full spa, that massive pool, serious cinema rooms, and outdoor decks that can host parties large enough to feel like your own private festival. The money behind the myth. Now let's talk about the part everyone really wants to know. What does Dilbar actually cost? Most serious estimates place her build price somewhere between $600 million and around $800 million US dollars. Some outlets lean closer to 600. Others argue that by the time you account for complexity, customization, and later refits, you are staring at a number that creeps up toward that 800 million mark. But the truly savage number is not the build cost. It is the annual burn. In the large yacht world, there is a common rule of thumb that you will spend roughly 10% of a yacht's value every year on operating costs. For a $600 to $800 million giant like Dilbar, that rule translates into a yearly running cost that realistically lands in the $50 to maybe even $60 million range. Fuel alone can easily cost into the high six figures per full tank. You have around 100 crew to pay, train, feed, and house. You have years of engineering packed into one hull that constantly needs inspections, parts, dry dock time, and software updates. Painting a hull this big is not a weekend project. It is a seven-figure line item. From a financial point of view, owning Dilbar is like owning a private, ultra-luxury resort that never generates revenue. It only generates stories. The number that really hurts. So, let's finally answer the question from the beginning. What is the brutal number that kills almost everyone's Dilbar dream before it even gets started? If you take a realistic annual running cost in the $50 to $60 million range and break it down, you get something uncomfortable. Depending on how actively you use the yacht, each day on board can easily cost well into the six figures in pure operating expense. When you divide it all the way down, you are talking about tens of thousands of dollars per hour just to have Dilbar alive and ready, whether you are partying on the aft deck or simply sleeping in. That is the part you cannot see from drone footage. The sheer financial gravity that sits behind every sunrise coffee on that aft terrace. Most people will never step on board a yacht like this, but understanding the scale, the specs, and the money behind it gives you a completely different view of what luxury really means at the top. Your turn. Would you step onto Dilbar? Now, I want to hear from you. If you somehow got invited on board Dilbar for a full week, what would you do first? Would you head straight for that enormous indoor pool, take a helicopter ride so you could look down at your own ship from the sky, explore every deck until you get lost, or simply stand at the rail at sunset trying to process the fact that your temporary hotel room costs tens of thousands of dollars an hour to exist? Tell me in the comments what your first move would be and who you would bring with you. Drop your answer below and join the conversation. If this deep dive into Dilbar's world made you see luxury a little differently, tap the like button so the algorithm knows to push more videos like this to you. And if you are new here and you love super yachts, private jets, mega mansions, and real billionaire lifestyles, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload from Luxury Living Detective. If you want to go even deeper into this world and support the channel at the same time, you can join the channel using the Join button and become part of our inner circle of luxury-obsessed viewers. And if this video made you dream bigger, or maybe laugh nervously at those fuel bills, you can also use Super Thanks to directly support the channel and help us keep bringing you the wildest stories from the world of ultra-luxury. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video, where we unlock another door into a lifestyle that most people will only ever see from a